Elena stood in the doorway of the dim bedroom, her fingers wrapped around the doorframe as if it were the only thing keeping her upright. Adrian lay motionless on the bed, his skin pale, his breath shallow, his eyes sunken. The sharp scent of antiseptic mixed with the faint aroma of the chicken broth she had spent the entire morning preparing. He hadn't touched it. He hadn't touched anything for days. She swallowed hard, fighting the burning sensation rising in her chest. A month ago, he was vibrant, strong, teasing her about overworking. Now he looked like a man drained of life, drifting away, 1 hour at a time. "Elena," he whispered without opening his eyes. "Yes, love?" She rushed to his side immediately. He didn't respond. He was already asleep again, or pretending to be. She sat on the edge of the bed and brushed a strand of hair away from his forehead. It felt warm, damp, feverish. Her heart clenched. Just a few weeks earlier, at the elegant charity gala in Bellevue Hall, Adrian had collapsed in front of hundreds of guests, clutching his stomach with a gasp so piercing the entire hall froze. Elena still remembered the sound. Raw, animalistic, nothing like her confident, athletic husband. Since then, every day had been a countdown. Every doctor they met gave the same grave expression. Every test took something out of her. Yet she kept moving, kept cooking, kept hoping. Even now, despite the documents piling up on her desk at the office, despite the sleepless nights, despite the terror gnawing at her, she made his favorite meals. Homemade meals. He always said only her food made him feel truly at home. "Elena, do you ever rest?" he teased her 2 months ago as she chopped vegetables in the kitchen. "I swear, if they gave medals for overworking, you'd need a second house just to hang them." She laughed then. It felt like another lifetime. Now his jokes were gone, replaced by silence. And Elena? She was running on fear alone. She forced herself up and left the room, closing the door quietly. In the living room, the stack of unpaid speeding tickets on the coffee table drew her attention. Adrian had always been reckless behind the wheel, parking wherever he wanted, speeding through the city like he owned the road. She once tried to scold him. "You know they'll suspend your license one day." He smirked, kissed her cheek, and said, "Then you'll just have to drive me everywhere. Don't pretend you wouldn't enjoy that." She did enjoy it. She enjoyed everything with him. But now even those memories hurt. Elena stepped into the kitchen and leaned over the sink, letting cold water run over her wrists. The stainless steel surface reflected the face of a woman she barely recognized. Dark circles under her eyes, hollow cheeks, determination mixed with dread. She didn't know how much longer she could pretend everything would be okay. But she had to. For him. For the man she had fallen in love with years ago in the most unexpected place. A small fitness center on the edge of the city. He was a trainer there, charming, warm, the kind of man who made strangers feel like old friends. She noticed him the moment she walked in. He noticed her too, but not for her wealth, as most people did. She liked that. Elena came from a powerful business family, and men usually approached her because of it. But not Adrian. He had no idea who she was. He teased her for her terrible technique on the treadmill. She teased him for being too cocky. They laughed like teenagers. Then one evening, after her workout, he simply said, "Let me take you out. Just dinner. And I promise not to correct your running form even once." He didn't know her last name, didn't know about her company, didn't know anything beyond her smile. She said yes instantly. They married 2 years later. She thought their love had overcome every difference in social class, lifestyle, and expectations. She believed he loved her for who she was, not what she possessed. She believed she was safe with him. But life never gives warnings before shattering illusions. Not the night he collapsed. Not the night the doctors told them the surgery he needed was only available abroad and cost more than most people earned in a decade. And not the moment Elena realized she would give up everything, her company, her savings, her future, to save him. Because she loved him that deeply. His life mattered more than her own. She had already begun preparing the documents for selling her business. She spent nights combing through contracts, reviewing offers, negotiating with potential buyers. Everything was moving forward, painfully slowly. And Adrian didn't have time. He reminded her of that every day. Elena, please, we can't delay. If the clinic thinks we're not serious, they might give my spot to someone else. His voice trembled each time he said it. She believed it was fear. She didn't know it was something else entirely. If she had known. If she had just come home 10 minutes later that evening. Her entire life might have unfolded differently. But fate had its own plans. And truth was waiting for her behind a closed door. The evening that changed everything began quietly, almost tenderly. Elena returned home later than usual, her shoulders tense after another draining meeting with investors. She carried a folder full of contracts, papers that represented the end of her life's work, the business she had built from scratch. But she didn't hesitate. If selling it meant Adrian would live, then she would burn the entire world for him. The apartment was unusually quiet. No light spilled from under the bedroom door. No faint music hummed from the living room, where Adrian usually tried to distract himself from the pain. She set her keys down gently and walked toward the kitchen to reheat the soup. That's when she heard voices. Muted at first. Barely audible. Coming from the partially closed door of Adrian's study. She frowned. He shouldn't have been up, much less talking. And he never used the study anymore. He spent nearly every hour in bed. Elena took a step closer, then another, until the words sharpened into clarity. "She's almost done with the sale," said a voice she recognized immediately. Rick, Adrian's older brother, a man she had never trusted but tolerated for Adrian's sake. Another voice responded, her husband's, except his tone. It wasn't weak, it wasn't feverish, it was strong, calm, entirely unlike the dying man lying in bed for weeks. "Good," Adrian said. "The clinic won't wait forever. She needs to finish it before she suspects anything." Her heartbeat stopped. Rick let out a low scoff. "You're lucky she's so in love with you. Anyone else would have questioned this weeks ago." "I know," Adrian replied. "But she's desperate. She'll do anything I ask." Elena froze, blood roaring in her ears. She didn't understand. "Suspect what? Desperate for what?" Rick continued, his tone colder. "Just remember, once she signs the deal, you two will separate for treatment. You take the money, I move it. Clean fast. She can't track it." A pause. Then laughter. Her husband's laughter. Not pained, not sick, confident, casual. "Relax, Rick," Adrian said. "She'll fall for it. She already has. When she sees me suffering, she doesn't think. That's the point." Something inside Elena cracked like fragile glass. Rick snorted. "You're playing a dangerous game. What if she gets suspicious? What if someone tips her off?" "She won't," Adrian answered. "Elena believes I'm dying. That's what makes her easy to control." For a moment the world tilted. Elena's vision blurred at the edges. He wasn't dying, he wasn't sick, he wasn't weak, he was lying, manipulating, using her. Rick spoke again, his tone dripping with greed. We get the money, I get my cut, and you disappear for a while. When things settle, you contact her with some story about recovery and new opportunities. She'll be grateful you survived. And she'll never know where the money went, Adrian added flatly. Everything inside Elena went silent. The air, the walls, the shadows, everything seemed to collapse around her. Rick chuckled. You sure you want to do this? She's your wife. Adrian didn't hesitate for even a second. She's rich, I'm not. Life is unfair. This evens it out. A sharp breath escaped Elena, louder than she meant. She pressed her hand over her mouth, terrified that they would hear her. Inside the study, the voices stopped abruptly. Then Rick asked quietly, Did you hear that? Elena didn't wait. She turned, ran to the front door, snatched her coat from the hook, and slipped out, silent, breathless, trembling. She didn't stop running until she reached the elevator, her heart slamming against her ribs so hard she thought it might split open. When the doors closed, tears finally broke free. They streamed down her cheeks, hot and uncontrollable, soaking her scarf. Her husband, the man she cooked for, cried for, fought for, was plotting to rob her. And she had almost sold everything she owned for him. Elena pressed her forehead against the cold elevator wall, her chest heaving. The betrayal cut so deep, she couldn't even form a coherent thought. Once outside the building, the cold night air hit her lungs like a shock. She stumbled forward, blinded by tears, barely hearing the hum of traffic around her. She walked without direction, without purpose, just away. Away from the lies, away from Adrian, away from the life she thought she had. She didn't know how long she wandered until she reached a small coffee shop near the station. Light spilled from inside, warm and gentle. She pushed the door open and sank into a chair near the entrance, her hands shaking. She didn't order anything. She couldn't speak. Moments later, someone sat across from her. Elena flinched, looking up with panic in her eyes. A familiar face stared back at her, older, sharper, unexpectedly grounding. Liam Carter, her classmate from school, now a police investigator, and the first words he spoke were not forced, not formal, but soft. Elena, what happened to you? She didn't answer at first, but she didn't need to. Her shattered expression said everything. Liam's eyes hardened with concern. Tell me, he said quietly. Start from the beginning. She drew a breath that felt like an open wound. And then she told him. Liam listened, without interrupting a single time. He sat across from Elena, his posture tense but controlled, his eyes focused entirely on her trembling hands. Every detail she shared, Adrian's sudden illness, the collapse at the gala, the doctor's dramatic warnings, the desperate plea for an overseas operation, Liam absorbed it all with a heavy, simmering anger that pulsed behind his calm expression. By the time she reached the part about overhearing the conversation, Elena's voice broke. She had to pause several times just to breathe. Liam didn't push her. He didn't ask unnecessary questions. He simply let her spill the grief she had been suffocating in for weeks. When she finally finished, silence settled between them, a silence so sharp it almost hummed. Liam leaned back slowly, exhaling through his nose. Elena, he said, his voice low but steady, your husband is not only lying to you, he's committing fraud, premeditated fraud, and if his brother is involved, this is conspiracy. She flinched at the word husband, as if it stung. "I trusted him," she whispered. "I was ready to sell everything. I already signed preliminary papers." Liam's jaw tightened. "Good thing you didn't finalize them." "I thought he would die if I didn't do it," she said, choking on the memory. "That was the point," Liam replied. "He wanted you desperate, vulnerable, easy to manipulate." His voice softened. "Elena, I'm sorry." Her shoulders shook as she wiped her face. "What do I do now?" Liam took a moment before answering. "We set a trap." She blinked, startled. "A trap?" "Yes." He leaned forward, lowering his voice. "If Adrian and Rick want to steal from you, we give them something they're eager to take. Then we let them hand themselves over." Elena shook her head quickly. "But I have nothing left. I pulled every connection I had to gather the gold. If they try to sell it—" "They won't be able to," Liam cut in, "because we're not giving them real gold." Her breath caught. "Fake. Replica bars used for undercover sting operations," he explained. "Indistinguishable to the untrained eye, completely worthless otherwise." Elena hesitated. "Liam, I don't want to commit a crime myself." "You won't," he assured her. "The bars are legally registered. I'll handle the paperwork. What you're doing is cooperating with an investigation." She stared at him, her wide eyes filled with a mixture of fear, exhaustion, and the faintest spark of hope. The first spark she had felt since her world collapsed. "But what if Adrian suspects something?" Liam's expression hardened. "From what you told me, he has no idea you overheard him. He thinks you're still at home, grieving over his condition." Elena swallowed. He was right. Adrian probably believed she was in the kitchen cooking soup, trying to keep him alive. The thought twisted her heart painfully. Liam continued. "Here's what we'll do. You will complete the sale tomorrow. Transfer your assets into the gold, the fake one. Then you leave it where Adrian expects it to be. They will come for it. They'll think they outsmarted you. And that's when we close the net." His eyes locked with hers. "Elena, I need you to be brave. One last time." She pressed her lips together, fighting a tremor. "I don't want revenge," she whispered. "I just want the truth. I want them to stop hurting me." "And they will," Liam said firmly. "I'll make sure of that." For the first time that night, she believed him. The next morning, Elena woke up with a strange stillness inside her, the kind that followed a storm. She stared at the ceiling for a long time, letting the cold realization sink in. Her marriage was over. Not because of death, but because of betrayal so deep it hollowed out the core of her trust. Yet she felt something else too. Purpose, clarity. She dressed carefully, choosing a soft beige coat and tying her hair back neatly. She looked composed. Normal. Someone who hadn't cried until her eyes burned. Liam met her outside the building, dressed casually to avoid attracting attention. He handed her a secured metal case. "Inside," he said quietly, "are the decoy bars. They weigh exactly the same as real ones." Elena gripped the handle, surprised by how heavy it felt. It looked so real? That's the point. Together they walked the short distance to the office where the sale documents awaited her signature. Elena signed the final paperwork without hesitation. Each pen stroke felt like closing a door behind her. By noon, the gold was stored in her apartment, right where Adrian expected it to be. And Elena? She waited. Every phone notification made her jump. Every footstep in the hallway made her pulse race. Hours passed. Finally, at sunset, the apartment door opened. Not slowly, not cautiously, but with hurried, greedy intent. Rick entered first, wearing gloves, scanning the room quickly. Then Adrian followed him, walking perfectly fine, no limp, no weakness, no pain. Elena watched from a hidden vantage point, her heart pounding but her eyes dry. Liam had set up discreet audio and video capture. The entire operation was being recorded. Adrian smirked when he found the metal case. "Told you she'd fall for it," he whispered to Rick. Rick laughed. "She's smarter than this. But love makes people stupid." Adrian crouched, opened the case, and stared at the golden bars. He whispered, almost reverently, "Finally." Elena closed her eyes. She felt nothing. No betrayal, no heartbreak. Just the quiet confirmation that she had made the right choice. Rick clapped Adrian on the shoulder. "Let's go. We'll move it tonight. My guys are ready." But as soon as they turned toward the door, the hallway filled with footsteps. Firm, heavy, unmistakably official. Then came the knock. "Police, open the door." Adrian's face drained of color. Rick swore under his breath, and Elena stepped out from her hiding place, her voice steady. "You should open it." Adrian stared at her, as if seeing a ghost. "Elena, you don't understand, But she did. She understood everything. Liam pushed open the door alongside two officers. His gaze found hers first, checking, confirming she was okay. Everything happened in seconds. Rick tried to run. Adrian tried to talk. Officers pinned them both easily. Handcuffs clicked. Rights were read. Evidence was collected. And in the middle of the chaos, Elena stood still, weightless, as if a 10-ton burden had finally been lifted off her shoulders. Liam approached her once the room cleared. "It's over," he said softly, but she shook her head. "No," she whispered, "it's not over yet." Because now she had to rebuild her life from the ashes Adrian left behind. But she wasn't alone. Not anymore. The night after Adrian and Rick were taken into custody felt strangely quiet. Elena sat on the edge of her bed now, and stared at the city lights beyond the window. Her apartment, once filled with the aroma of home-cooked meals and the murmur of shared evenings, felt different. Not empty, just free. For the first time in months, she breathed without pain. But exhaustion weighed on her heavily. Not just physical, but emotional. The kind of tiredness that comes after surviving a storm you didn't know you were walking into. By morning, her phone was full of missed calls from Adrian's side of the family, messages ranging from confusion to thinly veiled accusations. None of them knew the truth yet. But they would. Liam had assured her that the investigation was straightforward. Evidence, recordings, intent, planned fraud, conspiracy. The brothers weren't getting out anytime soon. Around noon, Liam called. "You home?" he asked gently. "Yes," she said. "I'm coming over." 15 minutes later, he knocked. When she opened the door, he stood there holding 2 takeaway coffees and a paper bag. "You haven't eaten," he said before she could protest. She didn't argue. She didn't have the strength to. They sat on her couch, unwrapping warm pastries. Liam didn't push conversation. He let her eat in silence. Finally, Elena spoke. "Do you think I was stupid?" Her voice was thin, fragile. "For believing him? For trusting everything he said?" Liam shook his head immediately. "No, you loved him. And love makes people generous. Sometimes too generous." She looked down at her hands. "He lied so easily. I didn't even suspect anything until that night. I thought he was dying. I thought—" She swallowed hard. "I thought I would lose him, but it turns out he was trying to lose me first." Liam leaned closer, not invading her space, but offering the kind of quiet support she didn't even know she needed. "Elena," he said softly, "you didn't lose anything. Adrian never loved you the way you loved him. That's not your failure. That's his." She nodded slowly, letting the truth settle inside her. Over the next week, things moved quickly. The police finalized their reports. The prosecution prepared charges. The media caught wind of a fitness trainer fraud scheme. Liam shielded her as much as possible, handled statements, blocked reporters, ensured her name stayed out of the spotlight. And through it all, he checked on her every day. Sometimes he brought food. Sometimes just a moment of peace. Sometimes a joke that made her laugh, even when she didn't want to. Elena healed slowly, but she healed. A month after the arrest, Elena stood in front of the same fitness club where she had first met Adrian. The place didn't hurt anymore. It was just a building, a memory stripped of its power. She took a deep breath before walking away, and right then, Liam's car pulled up. "Walking home?" he asked, stepping out. "Thinking," she answered. "Dangerous habit," he teased lightly. "Maybe, but I'm finally thinking for myself." Liam smiled, not the formal smile he used as an investigator, but something warm, soft, unguarded. "I'm glad," he said. They walked side by side without destination, talking about small things, work, books, places Elena wanted to travel to someday. She didn't realize she was smiling until he looked at her and said, "You're coming back to life." Elena stopped. The wind brushed her hair across her cheek. "You helped me," she said quietly. "More than you know." Liam's gaze held hers with steady warmth. "I didn't do it for a case," he said. "I did it because you deserved someone on your side." Her heart fluttered, not out of desperation, not out of loneliness, but out of genuine emotion she hadn't felt in a very long time. "Liam," she hesitated. "Do you ever wonder why we met again after so many years?" "Every day," he admitted. They stood in the fading evening light, the world soft around them. Elena realized something profound. She had lost a man who wanted to use her, but she had found someone who wanted nothing from her, except honesty, healing, and maybe, one day, her heart. She wasn't ready to love again, not yet, but she was ready to live. "You know," she said slowly, "I think life gave me a second chance." Liam nodded. "Then take it." A soft smile touched her lips. "I will." And as they walked together into the twilight, Elena felt something she thought she'd never feel again. Hope. A quiet, steady hope that grew stronger with every step.